But for me, what resources look like are people, not necessarily like these tangible, here's a card, here's this, but it's people. Maybe people that I have relationships with, maybe not, but just being able to pick up a phone and call a colleague. You might not know who I am on the other end, but for my students and the students that I've come across, that has been invaluable. I believe all of my colleagues are experts in whatever they are. So if you're in the Women's Center or LGBTQ Center, you are the expert on that area. So if I have a student who comes in with that issue, I want to feel comfortable and confident enough that I can refer them to you, and that you will take care of them the same way that I do sometimes with kid gloves that I should take off, but take care of them because you are the expert in that field, and you provide the resource to them by being able to listen to them and guide them in those specific areas. I would say for me, I have that happen throughout the year all the time. Being in student activities and leadership development, we get students from all over. We get students that are affinity groups or not in affinity groups, who identify with student government, who identify with women's issues. So we do a lot of referral. We do a lot of, here's this resource, and that resource is a person. But I would say a resource that's not in student affairs that I always have a connection with, knowing someone in One Stop has been an invaluable thing. Oh, when Cecily was the call to make. She has helped many of my students out. So definitely when you see those reoccurring issues that come to your table or come to your desk, find a colleague that you can reach out to, that you can continue to refer your students to. Because that one-stop number can get a little bit exhausted at times. Having to wait for those calls to get through, and you have this student with this issue that's pressing. They're first gen, they didn't get their FAFSA, their parent can't afford to do a loan application, and they are in tears. Redirecting them to the number is not going to cut it at that time. So just to kind of sum up, resources are people. They're not business cards, they are phone calls, they are emails, they are people that I can go and send you to. They are walking them over to this space. And I've had tons of success on campus doing that with many partners in here. When I think about off campus though, I've also had some success there. A lot of our students come in looking for jobs. So I've always tried to make sure that I keep those networks open with colleagues in other fields saying, hey, if you're looking for a student with this experience, I want to refer them to you. So creating that pipeline for my students to get gainful employment while they're still in school, after school, being a solid resource for them in that way has been very beneficial.
I think one of the things that I've found that can be really helpful in terms of a resource to students when they're trying to create like systemic change at UC are really resources, as Nicole said, people, but themselves. So recognizing that they can organize around an issue. So for example, student parents who understood that there are barriers for students with dependents. Organizing with other students who are facing similar issues. Students who are experiencing racism, to organize around that. And I think sometimes students think that, that their experience is theirs alone, because a lot of times we don't share our stories with each other, but hooking students up, connecting, finding ways, space to create opportunities for students to share their personal stories so that they can understand that, okay, what I'm experiencing is not just me, but this is a larger issue, and then together to kind of think through, and that's where also we can then help to provide some skills, strategies to hopefully create some change there. But I think, yeah, hooking them up with each other is really powerful as well.
I wanted to say this, on this question, and I want to look at Mike and thank him. When I look at my career, one of the things that really bothers me a great deal are the number of students who come now and they have disabilities. And no one knows that until we really have that point where the student comes and has a total breakdown, or you've got to take that risk. And I have to say to you, Mike, and being here, and since my daughter, I know she would not have graduated from up the road if it had not been for her being part of the Disability Services offices. All of us serve in certain partnerships, but there are some areas where I can't do anything. Even my knowledge of it, I can't do anything. So I really want to thank the Disability Services Office and Zynga in the counseling office, because I came along when we said we were counselors too. Yeah, when I started working, we would say we're counselors. Anybody who worked in student affairs. Then the counseling folks got smart and said, y'all can't claim that. You're gonna have to be credentialed to be in this bad boy. You know, especially if you want to make some of this money, forget that. So I have to say that many of us, we sit here and we know students that what they really need is professional service beyond what we can give. And that's really what your office does, and that's what your office does. But I really do think I would be, and you probably know the numbers, but I know the numbers have gotten larger in terms of our students who have different kind of disabilities. And so when we talk about, you know, who are the offices we go to, I mean, we can name all of them, but there are just some where there's nothing more I can do for Kim. You know, there's nothing more I can do for Mike. You know, and then I worry about, okay, is that even going to be enough? So the off-campus partnerships are very important to have, right? And so I just wanted to share that and acknowledge, you know, we have to look at those things that we really know very little about and that professionally we cannot provide the same service. So I want to share that.